we hack the code and flip the tag. Where cliches come to retire. Drop that beat, turn down to fire. Say what's real, make fears take a seat. Unconventional wisdom, dancing on your feet. Hey.
Hello and welcome to Unconventional Wisdom, about conventional wisdom. I'm your host, Kim Miller-Hershon. This is my guest today, Dusty Goldson. Let me just tell you a little bit about Dusty here before we get started. He is the CEO of a company called Tectonic, and he built it without outside funding or chasing trends. The company really grew through long-term relationships, consistent delivery, and showing up when it mattered. Over 25 years, he's led 5 acquisitions, built recurring revenue across housing, higher education, public health, and he scaled teams that succeeded in distributed, trust-based cultures. So today, Dusty's focus is less on platforms and more on people. Known for his straight talk and practical leadership style, he helps organizations cut through complexity, align around what matters, and modernize with clarity, momentum, and trust. Dusty, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me. And
You
by the way,
bet.
that was a nice intro. I don't know who wrote that for you, but they
Yeah.
were really kind.
Oh, we are going to have fun today.
Absolutely.
All right, Dusty. So you and I share a love of bourbon. Just curious, what are you tasting these days? It's good.
As I told you in the pre-conversation, I've been drinking a little bit of Weller. Really do love Weller. In fact, I think it's my favorite bourbon. A little bit of Rabbit, fantastic. Penelope, which is up and comer, just started really going crazy because I got bought PE funding. But Penelope has been one of my most interesting ones I've tried lately. Became mass marketed. But as I tell you, like I said earlier, I'm not a snob. I'm not like a refined palate. I hang out with the hoi polloi and I'll drink the Wells occasionally. No shame. I enjoy Buffalo Trace occasionally and things along those lines. But we have a number of bourbon clients in our digital division and ones that are startups. We actually invested in one of them called Left Bank, which is a fantastic little distillery. Recommend people trying them. And then, of course, big brands like Heaven Hill or Tavern, which is a medium-sized one. But yeah, we get to try a lot. We actually have an office in Louisville. So it's always a delight to jump down to Louisville and enjoy the Bourbon Trail delights.
There you go.
What's
Yeah.
yours, by the way? You've
Well,
never told me.
yeah, I was thinking about this. What am I enjoying? Listen, I'm like you. I could also name 10 bourbons that I love. I think right now I am tending towards some of the smaller craft distillers. So I'm drinking Still Austin right now, which I'm
Really?
quite, yeah, which I'm quite enjoying.
Still awesome. I'm gonna have to look
Hmm.
that up. All
Yeah.
right.
So there you go.
Any flavor profile you want to tell us all about?
I tend towards the vanilla, the smooth finish. I like complex and bold flavors. So I like things that have a smoother on the palate.
So not Booker's.
Exactly. Right. That super strong, either sort of alcohol flavor, or even it's funny, right? You're having a cigar. I don't mind a little bit of the tobacco flavor, but I don't want that to be the biggest part of the profile.
This is why you never went to Scotches. You don't like that, Pete.
That's right. Exactly. I'm not a big PD flavor profile person.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We can talk about this all day, but it's your
Yeah,
show.
sorry. Yeah, we do digress. Okay. We wanted to talk today about some of your stories, the way that you have grown some of these businesses and what you've learned along the way. My first question for you is, what's one piece of conventional business wisdom that you followed early on, only to realize that it was just not right for you?
Yeah, there's a funny saying in our company that if they would do a T-shirt for me and have my one quote early on, it would be "Speak to me in bullet points." And early on, I was like, "Hey, just give me the recap, the top, and I can make a decision for that." It took me about 7, 8 years, more like 10, before it dawned on me that the truth is in the narrative, not in the bullet points. Because the bullet
Mm,
points are people's perspectives of what they want to get an answer on. But the narrative, the story behind it is much more important, and you get a
uh-huh.
full idea of what's going on. And the danger of the bullet point is you miss delivering on expectations, you miss the nuances, because we're not very good at doing bullet points. And the bullet points are always from our perspective, especially on projects, right? This is what I care about.
Right.
So be patient, take the time to listen. I'm very bad at that. I'm not a very patient person. I very impulsive. I make decisions quickly, but I've had to stop and just close my mouth in a meeting and just listen till everybody talks and gets. That's the best way to actually operate. Because at the end of the day, you're not dealing with technology or things like that. You're dealing with people's expectations, and people's expectations are a story, not a bullet point.
I would agree with that. Not really. I'm certified in disc profiles. So, what you're describing is a very high D, right?
Yep.
Which is dominance. It is the just give me the bullet points and the ability to see the big picture, to make quick decisions.
Yep.
And I think hallmark of maturity in a
Mhm.
leader is to be able to recognize how you like things
Yep.
and then to modify according to really your experience.
Yeah. I would say moderate, not modify.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. All right,
And the
fair.
reason why is I was just talking to our CEO, our COO, sorry, and she's wonderful, Crystal. And every time I have to give a caveat, I'm just going to say things off the cuff right now, really quickly. Or I talk to our chief strategy officer, Mike, and I don't need you to react to him because this is me thinking out loud. And a lot of people that are high D are out, external thinkers. And so you have to moderate that sometimes because you can overwhelm somebody.
Right.
If you- And I would say the modification to that, to your point, is give ample notice.
And then here's the what is interesting though is that you can talk all the things out loud. The amazing thing about people who are high D styles is that you get to the point and you're like, okay, this is what it is. Boom, boom. It's like you got to think it through, but then you can really summarize and get back to what the salient issues are or what the decision is.
Yeah, it's funny, Kim. Something I noticed recently, I've been doing a lot of AI work and developing stuff on my own for fun, trying to create agents to operationalize and automate a lot of processes in the company. But one of the things I noticed is download this tool called Whisper Flow. There's a lot of them out there. It's a dictation. And my biggest problem with working and stuff like that is typing. It slows me down. I want to think these things out.
Right.
And going to be able to dictate things, it was an epiphany to me that I can't type as fast as I can think. It's the same thing with when I listen to somebody talking. I have to really put the brakes on my mouth because you already are trying to finish your sentences and it's annoying to the person, but you've got to moderate yourself, like you said. It's an incredibly hard decision. But I see that just in a practical point. Typing is too slow for me.
It's funny because sometimes my team and even my family will say, Kim, finish a sentence, right? Because my mind is just going so fast. So I've started 5 sentences because my brain is already 10 steps ahead.
100%.
Yeah.
It's funny, when I was in college, I used to read a book in my left hand and take notes in my right because that's the only way it could slow me down. Otherwise, I would disengage from the class.
I think a couple of things. First of all, you're really honing in on something that I think is important, no matter what style you are, which is be curious about yourself, know yourself, no judgment. You're wired how you're wired. You are who you are, right?
Amen. Preach it. Preach it.
And I think the other thing is too is that you also have the ability to make a different decision about your behavior.
Correct.
Your brain is as fast as your brain is, but you're not destined to interrupt everybody all the time with every thought that you have.
Correct. I think that's the part that you're pointing out, a good thing. It doesn't matter. I think your brain being as fast as it is or slower than it is, it doesn't, there's no value judgment in that. I love people that take things and think them over for a long period of time. I admire that. My wife's a very cerebral thinker. She thinks through We're very different in how we process. She's an internal processor and thinks through things a lot. I'm quick, make a decision. What I love about those different styles is they both bring enormous value. And so if
Oh,
anybody's
yeah.
listening to this, I would say that it doesn't matter what style you are. It's irrelevant. What it matters is that you're, like you said, self-aware and you know where to moderate yourself so that you can give space for the other person that may not be
Right.
there in time. And my wife's, are you thinking out loud? Or are you just making a decision? I'm like, I'm thinking out loud. She said, great. I can ignore all of this right now. I'll listen to it, but I won't like, I'll say, hey, I'd love to go to Hawaii. And she'd be like, all right, what do we pack? And I'm like, no, I'm not saying we're going to Hawaii. So she's
Right.
very much a planner and thinker. And I'm very much a doer and execute. Let's get going.
And one thing I always like to point out, since you brought the subject up, is that I think is really important to say out loud, right in our out loud voice, is that every style
Mhm.
can be a good leader.
100%.
And I think there is talk about some conventional, maybe I don't know if it's wisdom, but I think conventional thinking is
Stereotype.
o- only people, right, a stereotype, only people who are what we would characterize as that D style, that very direct, very clear, very quick thinker can be a good leader. And that's just not true.
Yeah, I agree. I think the only thing in that stereotype that is good, and I've seen great leaders that are cerebral, think through things, is that you have to come to a decision, right? And I think the decision part is the most valuable part. You've got to pick,
Right.
and you have to have the capacity to pick where you're right 51% of the time. You
Right.
know?
Absolutely.
And I think
Absolutely.
that's the only thing I would say about the stereotype that's good. I know folks, and I love them in our organization that they think deeply and long about something, and they put the brakes on me. And my dad always said, always have one person in your life that disagrees with you all the time. And he's right, because it puts brakes on you. It makes you think. It makes you pause and reflect. And sometimes it's a good reason why they're telling you to pause. Sometimes it's not. But generally speaking, you have to have the ability to pause and move it, but you have to make a decision. So if you're
Right.
a deep thinker, still you have to come to decision. Unfortunately, in business, sometimes you have to pivot quickly. And I
That's
think
right.
that's where the advantage for the impulsive folks like me are.
Yep. I totally agree. All right. For me, aside from bourbon, we could talk about just this the entire podcast because you made so many good points there. But we are going to move on. All right. So, 5 acquisitions, done a lot of successful business ventures. What's one thing that people assume that you have all figured out that underneath it all you still wrestle with?
I think the spreadsheet that you build from a potential acquisition or a business venture is all about aspirational hopes. And I was just talking to a friend. I did another venture with a friend of mine, and it we were very successful early on. We thought it's really grow. Success is a terrible thing to have early on, is my experience right now. And the reason why is because you start seeing that as the baseline.
Right, raises your expectations. Uh-huh.
And so I'd say the thing that I still haven't learned is how to moderate that expectation, because you're trying to model, okay, this is the revenue path, this is the marketing path. And it never, ever, I don't know how many times it never ends up that way. It's great. We
Mhm.
did 5 acquisitions. Of all 5 acquisitions, they had 5 different major problems, 5 major great things. I'd also say about acquisitions is your first, second, and third year of acquisition is not reality. It's your really maybe your third years. Once you get in your third and fourth year, then that's the real acquisition that you were going for. Because there's so many things that can happen in between there, and it's mainly people that you ingest into your culture. But that's the biggest cog in the wrench. 80% of the problems are in the people. The rest is processes and then
Mhm.
platforms.
You know what, Dusty, is so interesting? So you are speaking my language because I will tell you. So my business is business coaching, right? Dealing
Mm,
with teams and integration and communication and all the things that happen during an acquisition, a merger. You know
yeah.
what is so interesting? I spent probably like a full year trying to break into post integration, people management, right? Coaching, making that
Mhm.
transition work better, right?
Mhm.
And first of all, now that I think about it, I was probably targeting the wrong people because the people who were in my world were the deal makers, right? They're the transaction people. And honestly, they don't make any money. They're deal people, right?
Yeah, it's
So
transactional.
they're transactional, right? So if you're not going to be a partner that's going to help the transaction, then they're really not that interested in you. I would actually say I softened it. They're not at all interested in you. And
Especially if they're PE.
that's right. Exactly. And so what's so interesting is that I never got a foothold into that, I would say, almost like field of coaching and leadership and communication skills building. And yet the need is immense. It's really interesting. But I think, what's really interesting. So I want to go back. I'm gonna poke at you a little bit because I know you are pokeable. So
Do it.
so I want to go back to one thing that you said, in that when you have success really early in an acquisition, right? And that seems to never quite work out the way you think. What I want to get at is, because the question about is like, what do you wrestle with inside? I think, do you think that the expectations, what is on the spreadsheet around outcomes, do you think that what comes up for you? Do you question either your own money story around it? Do you question your own skill around your ability to either get the outcomes you're looking for? Because now you've got a lot invested in this, right? What do you think comes up for you personally?
I think that's a good question, and I think it takes a bit of me going back through all the acquisitions and think of one of the acquisitions. I expected to be people to behave a certain way. I expected positive intent from folks, and acquisitions are incredibly destabilizing for folks that are being acquired,
Sure.
let alone for people that have already problematic behavior. So I fooled myself into thinking this is going to be great. These people are going to be happy to be here, blah, blah, blah. And that's wrong. So I lied to myself. And I think with one of these acquisitions, I allowed a cancer to go on for about 11 months before I sized it. And that person was a cancer in the company. And it can be motivational. The problem with business is it's not life in some ways. What I mean by that is a lot of people say, hey, we're a family here. We all care about each other. And we do care about them as people. And that, but the business is an organism that exists for the people in that business. And if it's not progressing, then it's not. So I've had to change my tune on seeing it as a family where they're all my friends. I had to see it as they're all my coworkers and I'm friendly with them. It's a
Right.
very distinct part. And it was a hard thing to do
Yeah.
because you expect people to be just super happy and along the ride with you, and it's not. Going back to the spreadsheet, I think I'm always more optimistic. I like to think of myself as an optimistic person, but when it comes to business, I'm like, oh, who's the projections? And instead of being like the Debbie Downer and saying, no, that's probably going to happen bad. As my father always says, cheer up, it gets worse. And I tend to say, cheer up, it's going to be fine. But he's
Right.
right. You always have more problems than you have bright lights early on, I
Right.
think.
Yeah. I love this cheer up, it's going to get worse. I think I might steal that if that's okay with you.
My
Because,
European father-in-law would love that.
yeah, well, because we do have this dichotomy. We think it's either going to be great or it's going to fail.
Yep,
And life is a lot of gray in between, right?
lots. I think it's
And
51% gray. It's my point of view.
yeah. And also, what are you going to say to either your partners, yourself, your investors to say, yeah, I think it'll be moderately successful? People aren't buying into moderately as
Yeah.
successful,
Well, the
right?
problem is if you have a PE person involved, they're going to hold you to that moderately successful and then destroy your company
Exactly. Yeah.
and yourself in the process.
Right. Yep. So, if you could rewrite the rule book on leadership, what's one outdated belief that you'd throw away immediately and what would you replace it with?
Off the heels of that conversation, I think the one thing I would probably, that's a tough one, but my immediate knee jerk response was that people don't care about your business as much as you think they do, especially employees. You're the only person that can't leave your job if you're the owner. And I think that's a reality that sets you apart from the rest of your coworkers, unfortunately. At the same time, it's a great security to your coworkers that you're we have a saying in our that I like to say, I don't know if everyone knows it in my company, but we work in all aisles. It's that Home Depot or Lowe's, I forget who said it. We work in all aisles. So if you're in plumbing department and you ask me a question about electronics, I'm gonna help take you over there. Or if you have this problem, I work in all aisles. I was just on the phone the other day with just dropped into an account management meeting with a client, a large client in North Carolina, and they're detailing a problem they had. And I was like, hold on, hold my beer. I'm going to fix that. And I jumped on into my AI and some tools I had, and I whipped up a solution for that. In the old school, you'd be like, that's a task. I'm going to give it to a project manager, give it to a developer to solve. Rapid resolution of problems are important. So going back to your question, what's the thing to rewrite the book? I think having a clear, eyes wide open understanding of your people. I think that's the most important thing in any organization. Making sure you're really conscious and aware of the realities of your interactions with folks. Everything else is not important. It's important. Processes and platforms are important, but the people are 80 to 90% of the core of your operation. And don't fool yourself that they care about you at the end of the day. I'm not saying that in a bad way. I have a lot of folks, and I know a lot of my team members watch these podcasts. So please know I know you care. What I'm trying to say is they have families, they have children, they have relatives, they have medical situations, have crises and stuff. That stuff is going to be always the apex of their life, as it should be. And so don't go in there saying everybody's for me and they're going to do exactly what I want because they have other constraints in their lives and realities. Does that
Right.
answer your question?
Yeah, I think I want to get back to explore one of the things that you mentioned. And it was really about, oh my goodness, I'm losing my train of thought because you said so many fabulous things there all at one time.
Totally fine. If you find it, bring it back
Yeah.
up.
Okay. All right. So, what's one unconventional habit or mindset shift that helped you grow your business?
I think businesses that really are good and that succeed are the businesses that don't try to develop a solution first and then sell it. The things that are really successful are the people that want to solve a problem, find a problem, go, I'll figure it out. Hold my beer, I'll be right back, kind of thing. And I know as you get bigger, this is a problem about growing. Folks like, we don't have the capacity for that. No, it doesn't matter if you don't have the capacity. It's not important. What is important is they have a problem. Let's go find the solution. And I think the best companies are the ones that are constantly pushing themselves against things that they have not encountered before, that are constantly trying to solve a problem that they've never solved before. And it might be something out of their wheelhouse, something that they're not familiar with. I don't, and that goes down to the base unit, your individual person, your company. The other day,
Right.
like I said, I don't program at all. I don't know how to program. I don't know how to do anything. But I had someone ask me a problem, I'm like, I'll figure that out. Let me figure it out. If you don't have that attitude as a small business or even entrepreneur or even any business, I think you're eventually going to die. You look at like the innovative companies, they're always looking at that's a really hard problem. Let's try it. That's an attitude I think you should always have. Let's try it. Let's give it a shot. And you look at the people that have been super successful, even if you look at Elon, whether you like him or not, the guy's always solving ridiculous problems. This is ridiculous. Good grief. How did you figure that out? Or you look at Steve Jobs. How did you solve that problem? You look at what he did at Pixar. How did you constantly pushing the
Right.
envelope of ability and capability?
So, a couple things there. So, what I was going to pick up on what you said before, it's like we work on all aisles. There's nothing worse than going into the store and asking for something and somebody saying, I don't know, and then turn around and keep shelving whatever it is they're shelving or doing whatever they're doing. It's hugely frustrating, but I think what I wanted to ask you a little bit about, it's also a culture problem. It's a training problem, right?
Mm,
Because when I go in, I mean, I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, so we have Safeway here, the grocery store, right? I go into the grocery store, and in Safeway, they have been trained when I say, "Oh, do you know where I don't know where the sugar is, right? And they'll be, it's on aisle 5. Let me take you there.
That's smart.
Let me show you where that is. And the thing
Hmm.
is, it's got to be training because it's consistent, right? It is not
Hmm.
left to one employee to be courteous or polite. And so, what I was going to say in regards to like your company where you've got clients and you're solving problems is that it is really a leadership, either being a role model and talking the talk and walking the walk about how we do business here.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I do. I literally just had a call with our CO or my weekly meeting, and we were talking about integrating AI and how we need to make sure that folks are, leveling up in that. And she said, and she's right. She said, what are you doing every week to make that happen? And I was like, fair. And so one of the things is make sure you have a weekly or biweekly. Let's all hands optional show up and we'll discuss what we're doing. And I think you're 100% right. It's training in this. I listen occasionally to Jocko Willink, his podcast. I forget what the name of it is, but he has a great saying: "Is it's not what you preach, it's what you tolerate." And I love that saying a lot because we say a lot of things, but it's what we our baseline in behavior is what
Right.
really is what's communicated. And so that comes to training 100%. And he also has another saying that really bothers me, but it's true. There are no bad employees, there's only bad leaders. And yeah, you can carve
Oh,
out some
okay.
caveats for that. But
But
if you're not leading, then you're not leading.
then again, I think the when I am coaching somebody, and listen, I get, I've had to do it. So I get how hard it is to fire people. And if you really, if you see their potential and you know that they could do it, they're not doing it, right? I think at the end of the day, what I really talk to my clients about is what is it that you are saying to all the people who are performing and overperforming, that you are tolerating this behavior, that there are no consequences for bad behavior, a bad attitude, underperformance, right? It's not just that employee and their lost productivity, which is expensive enough. But I think it's very compelling to think about what are you saying to all the people who are doing their jobs?
100%.
Yeah,
That crass statement, there's nothing like a good firing to boost morale. It's a crass statement and it's not appropriate. But I do think there are a lot of people that work their literal asses off for you. And you are showing them a massive disrespect by
absolutely.
not making sure that you, one, reward them for it, but two, you don't tolerate that kind of behavior. Because
That's right.
I know there are folks that absolutely deserve to be respected by making sure that you don't respect people that don't work hard.
That's right. Exactly.
So,
Where what I think that statement often is go back to the training and skill building. I think what the statement that you made before about leaders, it being a leadership problem, like
mm,
I think that there oftentimes it is in that you have not given the person the resources they need. You have
true.
not trained them in what they need to do. You have not, we'll go back to the beginning of the conversation, is you expect them to do it in a very specific way that is that they could get the outcome, but they can't do it the way you do it, right?
Yeah,
And you've
100%.
just decided that's the only way it can
Correct.
be done, right?
Yep.
So there's a whole variety. And so I think that statement, there's only bad leaders, is that. But let's be clear, and you've employed a lot of people, and
Yeah.
I've had the same experience, which is there is a point at which like I have, oh, I guess I can't
You've
say
done
that.
everything.
You've done everything. Thank you. You've done everything. That was not exactly what I was going to say, but that is a much more polite way of saying it. You've really done everything, right?
Yeah,
And
but good leadership also is, and if you don't let them find where they're going to be successful, the bottom line is there's some people that will never be successful at your company, and you're doing them a disservice. You're being a bad leader if you let them stay.
that's right. Yeah. And it's interesting, even for myself. One of the jobs that I had before I started my business, I worked in engineering firms, right? And let's just take a moment to say, me in an engineering firm, right? I was doing business development and marketing. So I think that was a good fit for my skill set. But just how engineering firms run, definitely not a good fit for me and my personality. I would never, I wouldn't say never quit, but I wouldn't have quit at that time because I needed the paycheck. And I ended up getting laid off. And and were there consequences for that? And was like in the short term, was it bad? It was very bad. But it's the biggest gift that the universe ever gave
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. You look back
Yeah.
at things that were crisis and you actually thank them for 'em. What's that? I mentioned this like to a bunch of friends lately. There's that Chinese story where a guy has a son and everyone in the village says, "Oh, this is most fortunate." He's maybe. And then son gets sick and they're like, "Oh, it's more unfortunate." And he's like, maybe. And son finds a horse. "Oh, fortunate, you found a horse." And he said, "Maybe." And the kid breaks his leg off the horse. "Maybe." And it goes on and on. Basically, a lot of things in your life that you think are horrible, you can't judge it at the time.
That's
A lot
right.
of things that you think are great, you can't judge at the time. Like I said, I had success in one business and we thought it was great. Maybe. And we doubled down into that business and that was an anomaly, right? So I would tell people you can't live thinking that what you're experiencing today is going to be your future.
Exactly. And you know what I always love to say, which is that there's a lot of things that you cannot control in this world. But
99% of things.
that's right. But you know what? Your experience of those things is always in your control. And at the
That's
end of
right.
the day, that's the thing. That's your maybe, right? And you're in charge of figuring out meaning, right? What's your story around this? How do
Mm.
you put, and listen, is it this simple? Of course not. It takes a lot of self awareness, a lot of work. In a lot of ways, Dusty, I think you married well. I think it's really helpful to have those people in our lives that think differently than we do. And it goes back to executives teams too, and who you surround yourself with. Much more fun to surround yourself with people who are like you, want to sit there and drink bourbon and smoke cigars. But at the end of the day, like you said, you need people who think differently in order to come up with better solutions for things.
Agreed. Agreed. Otherwise, if you were with the same people all the time, you'd be insufferable, I
It's
think.
true. It's true. Just ask my kids.
No, I see some relationships where both people are exactly the same person and
Right.
you don't want to hang out with them.
Right.
Yeah,
Th-
they don't moderate the other person.
That's right. Exactly.
And I would
Um,
say the caveat to this conflict is not negative. Conflict, how you use it, can really be positive.
and it typically takes some training, frankly, in order to have productive conflict.
It's
The
true.
the if I could leave everybody with just one thought about that, going on and on about it, it's from the Patrick Lencioni Five
Their book.
Dysfunctions of a Team. And really his thought leadership around this is that productive conflict comes from being able to have disagree or have different opinions about an idea and not attack the people.
Yeah, it's having the right tactical tools to be able to engage in that conflict.
That's right.
Yeah, being able to de-escalate
Right.
is an incredible skill.
And how about this? To be able to apologize. Like if you're the one who crosses over the line, to be able to recognize that in yourself and to be able to take responsibility for it.
Are you asking for humility?
Yeah, it's funny, Dusty. It is humility, but also too, it takes a lot of self-confidence to be able to take responsibility for your own missteps and mistakes.
It's interesting. You think it's self-confidence, or do you think it's maybe I'm muddling the two, but I think like self-awareness. I think humility is a matter of is coming down off that mountain and saying, you know what, it's not my mountain to be on. I'm speaking for myself. To say that you're wrong implies a lot of things, and I think the ability to risk. I think it's the ability to risk what
Right.
will happen when you say I'm wrong, because you don't know where those
Yeah.
chips will fall. You have no idea.
That's right.
And
That's right.
with your when you're with a client, you say, "Hey, we effed up. we're wrong. What's
Right.
going to happen?
It is the unknown, but I will tell you in my experience, there's two things. One, if you expect your employees to point out mistakes so that it can get fixed,
Yeah,
then
exactly.
if
That's
you are a leader who never
it's
makes,
infallible. Yeah.
then how can you expect your employees to do it? Because
You're 100% right. This is why you're a coach.
there you
But you're
go.
100% right. You're setting the parameters for people to feel safe and able to, yeah. Yeah, you're right. 100%.
Yeah. All right. Last question. This has been a very fun conversation, even though I did lose my mind somewhere in there, but I got it back. So
It was
there you
still
go.
percolating. It wasn't
Yeah,
lost.
there you go. Yeah, I like that. All right. So, in this day and age, like where you are now in your career and your life, if you're going to feel imposter syndrome, right? That sort of in a moment of lack of confidence, what is the circumstance where it's likely to come up for you? And secondly, what do you do to get yourself back moving forward?
People always talk about imposter syndrome as bad. I think it's a good thing. Going back to that last conversation, I think it's a humbling tool to recalibrate. It's okay to feel imposter syndrome. I would tell people if you feel that, then you're human and you're good and you're healthy. If you don't feel it, you're a scary person in some sense. You're psychopathic. I think it's good to always check yourself and recalibrate. So, how do you get past that? I always feel imposter syndrome at some point. All of a sudden, you realize that you have a payroll to meet every 2 weeks and it's $500,000 and you're sitting there and you're like, oh my gosh, what do I do? What do I do? And that's just reality. Accept it. It's okay. But the way I get back to it is work harder. My chief of strategy, and Mike sent me a coffee mug, and it's based on that book about hard things. I don't know if you read that book,
Mm-mm.
but it's no one cares, just work fucking harder. And the thing is, I know that if I work hard, I'll make it through. And it's a matter of just applying yourself. I think if everybody would just stop, you can have that moment of doubt, but don't live in that moment of doubt. If this is my doubt, this is the problem. And then focus on the problem. Don't focus on the
Right.
doubt. And I think that's the biggest problem, imposter syndrome, that people get worried about is they focus on the doubt and that consumes them. And
Right.
whatever you're thinking about, as Freud says, whatever you're thinking is practicing. And
Right.
so don't keep thinking about that thing because it's not going to help you. And also, it's not real, too. Doubt is not real. Doubt is unknown. Why worry about something that you don't know? Make your reality. And I hate that statement, but just work at it. You might not get
Right.
it the first time. You might not get a second time. It might take you 10 times. Who cares? Just keep working.
I would agree with you 100%. And then the last thing that I would say is that I think oftentimes when we feel imposter syndrome, then we feel vulnerable and we feel like we have to keep it a secret. So
Mm.
I would say that as long as you surround yourself with other smart people, that or you get a coach or a therapist or whatever support you need, right? A spouse. I will tell you that although right now my husband works in a nonprofit, like he worked in business for the majority of his career and he's really smart about business stuff. And he's a great thought partner for me around some of the challenges that I have or some of the things that I'm unsure about. And get yourself a good thought partner. It's somebody you can really say the real to.
Yeah, I agree. I think a business coach or a therapist, both a good value and mainly for reflection. But someone like a business coach like yourself that has experience and is you work with numerous clients, I think you can bring a plethora of wisdom to folks' lives when I've seen that there. Here's what I can help you with. I think a lot of times that, that doubt that you have, that imposter syndrome is really fed by isolation.
Right.
And a business coach can then say, actually, you're just like about 1,000 other people I know. You're not
Right.
alone. So that kind of dispels this, I'm in this dark hole by myself. You're not.
Yeah.
You're not special that way. Don't worry about it.
You
Everybody
are
else.
you that's right. You are a unique unicorn, but not in that way.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I love
yeah,
that. All right, Dusty, this has been a fabulous conversation. Super fun and enlightening. I think an interesting and lots of nuggets. Lots and lots of nuggets
enjoyed
for
it.
Yeah, good. All right. I am Kim Miller-Hershon. You have been listening to Unconventional Wisdom about conventional wisdom. Dusty Goldson.
You got it.
Okay.
Nailed it.
And and Dusty, where do you want people to go if they want to get in touch with you?
Sure, you can go to our website, teamtectonic.com, or you can find me on LinkedIn at dusty.gullison. If you just
There you
put that
go.
in after LinkedIn, and I'm happy to help, supportive.
Awesome. All right. So you've got all the things that you need, listener. Everything you need is here. Do me a favor. Subscribe to my newsletter. We send it out once a week. It's just one, we just tackle one thing. It's also up on LinkedIn. So connect with me on LinkedIn if you haven't already. And the last thing is that if you want to talk about yourself and your stuff, I've got a free webinar. We're going to do them every month. So if you want to have a live conversation with me, come to the webinar. And I look forward to meeting you. This is fun. Okay, in that case, I think we are done here. So go out and be a better human.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You.
We have